Suikoden II is a classic. It's one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, at least that's what I read on Reddit, but how far can you get using only items? I know I say this every time, but if you're unfamiliar with the game, go and play it first, but I really mean it. This time, don't ruin it for yourself. I'd rather get 0 views than you deprive yourself of this experience. But, then come back and give me that view when you're done. I'd do anything for that one sweet view. I'd even ruin Suikoden II for you. I'm beyond the point of caring. Anyway, if you're familiar, some things you should know are that there are damaging items, of course, and that the inventory is split by character. It's kind of shared, but not really. In addition to regular equipment, each dude can rock into combat with up to 3 accessories, which include stat-increasing trinkets or usable items, such as medicines and scrolls, which is where 100% of our damage will come from. Each item also has a maximum use count of 9, but the actual number you can acquire is much, much lower, with medicines having 6, mega medicines having 3, and most scrolls having 1 or 2. With an empty accessory slot, you can pull items from your inventory mid-battle, but it costs that member a turn, and the shared inventory has a maximum capacity of 30, so if this is possible, it's gonna be a doozy. Let's begin! Opening with Joey and I&II having a little snooze, we awake to an ambush. Running around like a bunch of children who've been ambushed by a real army, it's revealed that our commander sold us out, and that sucks, so we head up the cliff to jump off, but are stopped by the Suicide Prevention Squad. This quartet is keen on serenading us with the Song of Life, but I'd really like to set them on fire. Luckily, our starting gear contains a bunch of equipment I can rip from Joey, which includes Flaming Arrow, a usable scroll that casts a fire spell on every foe with a whopping 60 base power. We have 2 of these, and they have 2 charges each, so 4 total uses, and just 1 claps the Band of Men. Their endeavour has failed. Are they underfunded or simply incompetent? And we jump off the cliff and are awoken by the true hero of the story, Victor. He reveals that we're enemies, though our allies are also our enemies, so we're not doing too hot. The other in-game daddy, Flick, mentions that Joey escaped, so we're hauled off to prison. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about prison, but knowing the general audience for challenge runs, probably quite a lot. And if you want to eat in prison, you perform chores. But, they never told us not to scam the inventory manager. We're told to get 2 pairs of boots, but you can actually request 3, giving us a free pair. Now we're sneaky and fashionable. Getting hit on by a loose mama, we're told to head to the nearest village to get flour, as Victor's really into fat girls and are given a kobold companion as well as a child doctor to ensure our return. The heckin' papa refuses to babysit, but is swiftly convinced by the beauty of a woman. The joke writes itself. I strip some equipment from the kobold, though most of his items are locked, and pilfer the doctor's medicine. We return and are confined once again. Joey attempts to bust us out of prison, but fails, then he tries again and succeeds, and we're free! We head back to that same town and get swept up in a street performance, which gives us 3 new allies, Rune, Ely, and Bolgan, one of whom comes equipped with an Angry Blow scroll, which does 100 lightning damage to a foe and has 2 charges, giving us access to 2 more offensive spells. Heading north, Rune gives one of the guards an Angry Blow. That's not me being playful, it genuinely happens, play the fucking game. We skim through the mountain, fleeing from every foe and plundering every chest. Then we happen upon one more scroll, a Firewall. This has 1 charge and does 150 fire damage to an enemy Raww. We've got a total of 6 attacks now, which is fantastic, as we're gonna need them. I put the Angry Blow and Firewall scrolls on Rune and my 2 flaming arrows on Joey. Then we head to the first boss of the run, the Mist Monster. We stand tall and start chucking unread citations like an internet debater, and wouldn't you know it, we get double misted. The boss can one-shot Joey, as we haven't fought any battles after the soldiers at the beginning, and he attacks 2 or 3 times per turn. Our flaming arrows do 88 damage, with the 2 stronger attacks from Rune doing 166 and the other 116. Mist Shade has a respectable 800 health, so if we can pop off every attack, then we only need another 250. Let's do some damage tests to see if scrolls scale to intelligence or have damage variance. Joey has 22 magic and does 88 damage to these fodder rabbits with flaming arrows. Bolgan has 15 magic and does 57 to the same foe. Okay, it's far from scientific, but magic definitely impacts damage. One interesting note is that the damage ostensibly has no variance. It's a hard calculation. You'll love to see it, especially after the Lufia and Final Fantasy IV runs, goddamn. If we divide 88 by 22, we're given 4 magic damage per point, but dividing Bolgan's 57 by 15 gives us 3.8. I'm going to use the maximum intelligence code on an alternate save and flip this 0xFF part, which is 255 in hex, to 0x00, which is 0. I've done 3 tests, one with a flaming arrow at the max magic of 255, one with 1 magic, and one with 0, and what I found was quite frankly disturbing. The max magic 255 dealt 313 and 315 to these foes respectively, I'm guessing the grunts have an extra 2 fire resist or magic defense. Checking the bestiary, I am correct, and if you add the magic value, 255, to the base proposed damage of the flaming arrows, you get the exact amount of damage it dealt to the captain, 315. Dropping magic to the minimum values also saw this reflected, with 1 point doing 61 damage and 0 doing 60. It seems that what you're promised is what's delivered, and every extra point of magic adds 1 damage, but hang on, something else is missing, as not only do they have magic defense, but if Bolgan hit 57 and Joey hit 88 on the same foes, but their magics were only 7 points apart, something else is going on. After doing some more digging, I discovered that each character has a set elemental affinity. Joey has a B rank in his fire affinity, which increases the base power of the spell by 20%. So 60 times 1.2 is 72, then his 22 magic makes it 94. Subtracting the rabbit's magic defense of 6 ends up at 88. Perfect! Bolgan has no affinity, at least according to this website, so with 60 base damage plus 15 magic minus the 6 defense is 69 damage.
Nice.
But the only way this makes sense is if Bolgan has a D affinity, which would mean fire does 20% less damage, which drops the base 60 to 48, add 15 for his magic to 63, then subtract 6 for the lands at 57, perfect. Reading some other charts, they document Bolgan correctly, so it's just this website which fucked me. Either way, we're good, let's get on with it. I've got a pretty concrete understanding of where our numbers are coming from now, which means I should have Firewall on Joey and not Rena, as it'll have a base power of 180 instead of 150. And apparently Rena's lightning affinity is C and Joey's is B, meaning Joey should have every spell, which is going to double the amount of turns we've got to survive, and we die in 1 hit. Fantastic. Will the 20% added damage on those 3 spells be enough to make a difference? If Joey hits all these attacks, we'll do 736 damage, and the boss has 800 health. We are so close it hurts. Okay, so we have a slight issue. We've no access to damaging items outside of what we have, and can't grind to get more stats. So what is the plan? These bees in the mountain pass actually drop flaming arrows, and you might inquire why I would have done all this data diving instead of starting in the hive. Well, the enemy drop rate in Suikoden II is notoriously low, extremely low, likely some of the lowest in the history of JRPGs. The rate at which most monsters drop items ranges from 1 to 6%, and the bees have a 2% chance of dropping flaming arrows. Add to that the fact that I have to make an arrow profit, I can only expend 1 as they have a charge count of 2, so I need to reload every time they don't drop the item. So, that's why I was looking for literally any other way to progress. This is going to take a very long time. And you might be thinking, don't you only need 1 drop to cover the boss gap? And that's true, but it doesn't include potentially scripted battles in the future, and who knows what else. Anyway, I'll see you on the other side. That's me speeding up. The first bout of grinding goes well. I fight 1 set of bees, but nothing, and then I have a realization. If I fight a second set of bees and get a drop, then I haven't broken even because I'm up experience and potch, the game's currency. This makes it way less tedious, as I can now fight 2 encounters before resetting. So I fight the second one, and Lord bless this run, I get the 1.96% drop. I couldn't believe it. I use this opportunity to head back to the previous town and gear Joey up with as high defenses as I can give him, as he's gonna need to survive. Then we go back to grinding bees. My luck rapidly dwindles, as the next drop wouldn't be for 20 encounters, but that's still really good for a 2% chance. I ended up collecting 2 extras on top of what I needed for the boss, and the average amount of battles it took me to see a drop was roughly 10, which I'm more than happy with. I don't know how the item drops work, but on paper, we're looking at a 1 in 50 shot. However, there are clearly more machinations steaming along behind the scenes, or I don't know, maybe I'm just insanely lucky. I'm also a Diablo II veteran where a 1 in 1000 chance is considered good odds, so honestly, this is nothing. In this time, I also cleared an extra level for Joey, putting him at 26 magic, but that's 4 difference, it's not going to change much. Ground and powered, I returned for another attempt. The extra defense and health kept me alive during my item rondo, where I'd have Joey in the back and everyone either defending or force-feeding him medicine. Joey barely survived on low health once Ely went down, but we somehow edged out the tight race. The mist will kneel to the power of items. Heading home, we find our sister and a squirrel, we get arrested, then beaten and hanged, and that's the game. Thanks for watching. Our boys Flick and Victor arrive to free us as we're their bitches, then we escape from the town, never to return, or maybe we will, I don't know. Running back through the mountain pass, I drop an extra save here, as one of the things I remember clear as day is that once you leave, you can never return. Given that this is the only place to get extra damaging items, I'll perform a secondary save and continue on for now. This is actually not true, you can glitch your way back in, I didn't know that at the time, so I dropped an extra save. We drop Flick and Victor off at their base and are tasked with recruiting more friends. I grab a boy and his dog, a drunk with a bad stomach, and a man with something to prove, and they have some okay equipment but no damaging items. I'm unable to recruit Millie, this French-looking girl, as to acquire her, you must destroy her pet leech Bonaparte, and I don't have the output. However, if you agree to help her, she'll join temporarily, so you can unequip her gear and then leave her in the forest. She's got a neat accessory that gives female characters a decent defense boost, and apparently immunity from being targeted. Then I hold the line through the small town of Toto and straight to the Muse Matilda border at the top left of the map, where I'll perform a famous glitch, pushing this gate and walking around it. This is a mid to late game area, and at this point we're like one boss in and should be around level 10 with our boys Flick and Victor at 20. They're supposed to be hardened war veterans, and we're children, so this is shown in a quantifiable way outside of them being really fucking cool. The events here are for a party well into their 30s, so I kick off the events, head into the forest to explore for loot, and get rocked, absolutely destroyed. I load the backup save I dropped on the mountain when we still had Flick and Victor in the party, and decide to take him for a cheeky explore through the forest with me. You know, they might keep me alive long enough to flee from encounters. As I arrive at the connecting bridge, I'm stopped. Apparently you can't take him through, so I'm just gonna have to pray that fleeing works. I re-recruit everyone, but I forgot Zamza this time, which sucks as he has an A scaling in fire, which, you know, really would have helped. That's an extra 40% damage. Ricky Maru drunkenly enters my party as his hardened liver gives him a lot of health, then we push the border again. Before that, I do a quick skim through the various item stores around the world and find that Muse was holding out on us. In the Rare Finds tab, which is a cyclical part of a store offering uncommon products on a timer, I find 2 more flaming arrows, so that's another 4 total attacks. Gallivanting through the Matilda Forest, I spot 3 chests. One has a mega medicine, one with a guard ring, and the final with a dragon armor. These are either going to sell for a shitload or keep me alive longer, so all in all, a positive yield. I also tempt fate and drop one of my flaming arrows on a group of 6 holy boys, which one-shots them all and gives me enough experience for my entire party to hit level 13 from level 6, which is, you know, that's a pretty solid increase in stats. I'm feeling pretty powerful, but our attacks are limited, and I can't be asked figuring out how rare finds work to farm flaming arrows, so we head to another village situated behind the push gate, Rock Axe Town, where we make a beautiful discovery. The item shop here sells Angry Blow Scrolls as well as Thunder Runners occasionally in the rare find section. Now, all I need is a way to make money. I have access to 2 towns with trading posts and overlapping items, so I do some cheeky buying and selling, playing the monetary marimba and come out with a couple extra G's. Then I overplay my hand and saturate the market and start tanking money, so with what wealth I can salvage I get some defense boosting gear for the boys, including a sun badge which I give to the hero. This item restores a small amount of HP per turn. It's like negligible though, it's like 5. It's useless.
I also found flaming arrows in the rare finds of Kiara. This is huge, I don't know why I didn't mention it. Legit would have saved me a couple hours grinding.
So let's go back a little bit. That leech in the forest that I said I couldn't kill, turns out I have to make progress. So with an inventory now bursting with items, we do that quite easily as he's weak to fire. Then the story progresses. We head back to the border town, some kid wants to buy her parents a trinket from Muse, and we like Muse, strong people, good item selection. I do the story stuff and check the rare finds section again despite having bought flaming arrows moments prior, and I'm surprised to find they had 9 in stock. 9, that's 18 attacks. Needless to say, all that stuff with pushing the gate and trading was completely irrelevant. I didn't have to do that. My inventory is overflowing, as are my characters. Let's make some fucking progress. We're told of an upcoming invasion and offer our assistance, which comes with a test. A 1v1 test against Flick, the blue guy in this duel-style battle Suikoden is known for. This is a mode where you're given verbal prompts which cue you in on how to act, a predictive battle of implied cues to best counter your foe and attain victory. Unfortunately, there's no items in this part, but given that it's basically contextual and only happens a few times in the game, let's kick Flick quick. We head to the starter village where we recruited all those friends, and in the mountains is a man who will repair some fire spears for help in the upcoming battle. This is another tutorial for a secondary grid-based tactical battle mode. Again, something that only happens a handful of times and is mostly contextual. The beauty of this one though is that we can use items, at least for this battle. I'll do my best to clock future battles with items, but I'm not banking on it at all, so I'm gonna say it doesn't count. The fortress burns down as the child's about to be slain, then we flee and head to a secret cave in a destroyed town, giving us a unique, powerful ability. Joey and I&II are gifted half of one of the true runes, the most powerful in all the lands, and they are extremely powerful, but we unfortunately won't be using them. Not even outside of battle, which is unfortunate as the Bright Shield rune has a very good set of healing spells. We're barred from entering Muse, which sucks as they've got my flaming arrows hostage in there, but we just need to take a little detour to the White Deer Inn to help a bro out before moving forward. We enter to find a milfy innkeeper who mentions her husband's off looking for treasure in the ruins behind their home, so naturally, we're recruited to help him. This is a modest dungeon where I flee from every encounter as I don't want to blow my items and my party sucks. When you flee the burning fortress, you're given a randomly pulled set of fellas, and I rolled Snake Eyes. Speaking of which, our next boss is up and he comes with 2 pair. The twin-headed snake is some of the best pixel art I've ever seen. I love him, and thanks to our late game equipment yield and those extra stats we gained, even with our pathetic party, the hero and Joey clapped him pretty hard. He had a blistering weakness to fire, and that is what we are stacked with. In the ruins, we found some runes which might make for good selling, another angry blow scroll, and a magic stone which permanently increases a character's magic stat by 1. I won't be using this yet as I may need it, so we'll hang on to it. Very tightly, it's going to occupy one of my limited inventory spaces for like half the game. Through to Muse, we get captured, freed by Victor and Flick again, and we're off to make a huge chunk of story progress. There's a lot of shit to go through, it's not dense but it's lengthy, so let's hit the highlights. We play dress up at the request of a government official, sneak into an enemy camp to find out how long they're hanging around, we chat with a princess, she exposes herself, Joey gets captured, then we go back and Victor assaults another government employee before almost doing it a second time. Based, I told you he was the best character. In this scene, we're subject to 2 mandatory battles between a handful of guards. The first has Joey and his high magic stat take him out easily, but he's absent for the second fight. So the hero steps up with a flaming arrow or 2 and we're on to our next adventure. There's some more shit, another borderline contextual Fire Emblem fight. We recruit this stray dude because we got lucky enough that he didn't die, and I don't remember initiating any attacks, but I might have. It's totally completable without doing anything though, you've just got to be extremely lucky. Then Joey kills this chick and we flee again to the south this time in hopes of catching a boat. I do a cheeky check before we enter the town to make sure I can re-enter Highway Village to buy more attack items, since I think Muse is off limits now, given that our best mate just murdered the leader. And we can, so we're still good for damage. I head back and fill my inventory as we're about to leave this continent, and I don't know what's on the other side. Some say flying blind is stupid, but you know, I say sometimes you gotta dive in head first. You gotta be a little crazy, you gotta take a risk. If I can't see it, it's not real. So we'll only pop like 4 backup saves instead of the usual 5. Absolutely dominating at Chincharoran because you couldn't stop me gambling if you tried. We made it to the new continent, and here we find that the item store actually sells flaming arrow scrolls. God damn, I just angry blew so much money. A quick inspection of the surrounding towns reveals that I can not only buy more angry blows on this side, but also a scroll to put enemies to sleep, and 1 to buff the player's defenses. I am truly blessed. We meet back up with Victor, who tells us we're gonna get the mayor to pay for our army once we reassemble it, and it works. At this point, Vic and Flick both join the party for realsies, then Flick leaves again, but Victor, my real dad, stays, just like Mum promised all those years ago. We rush to North Window to find the living dead and a necromancer, then are tasked with finding our old sword buddy, which is through a short, windy dungeon with real difficult wind puzzles. I mean, look at this. Do they expect me to clear this without a walkthrough? Like, how am I supposed to figure this out? Old games expect way too much from you. I clap a couple dudes in here to test damage and how much potch we can get off them, and if we run into groups of at least 3 minotaurs or griffins, we can clear them with 2 charges of flaming arrows. 2 charges cost 700 potch, and we get back slightly more than what we spent buying it. So we're in a place of relative comfort, which is immediately revoked once we tackle the boss, the Star Dragon Sword. I got sliced and diced against this dude, but the story continues even if you lose. However, I'd used so many items against him and felt that if I couldn't beat this guy, how could I even stand against the next boss? So I did what any sane person would do, I reloaded and clapped him, but it was close. I used pretty much all of my items, which, you know, does not bode well. The maximum inventory limit is 30 items total and 3 items per character. Come on, I told you this like 30 minutes ago. Come on, keep with it, come on. Optimally, we'd have 48 items, but 18 of those slots are shared with defense boosting accessories, so I walk a very fine line. Anyway, we collect Khan, who has 1 more point in magic than my hero, so we've got 2 high tier blasters, and then Ely, who has a little less magic but still more than our other 3. The rest of our party consists of Freed Y, Victor, and Nanami, who have pathetic magics, though in a pinch their slightly lower damage is going to be worth more than nothing. Khan also comes with a 3-charge Firewall scroll, and we just found a 1-charge in a chest, and it begs the question, why are charges variable? Can I manipulate that somehow? We also collect a Stone of Defense to go with our Stone of Magic, which again we'll hang on to for later, even if it's costing me an inventory slot. Anyway, collecting a few levels from the cave and the Star Dragon Sword, we're poised to take on the next dungeon after a brief restock. It's a mostly empty affair with a few chests, but at the top is a massive, gangly-ass ghoul who destroyed me. As Khan is mandatory for this encounter, and he packs an arsenal of anti-undead tools, as well as ghouls being evidently weak to fire, you can clap this guy pretty fast in a standard run, you know, with real magic and healing and all that. Not to mention the auxiliary melee damage from some pretty beefy characters. To counteract how soft the Abomination is, he hits very hard, which turns this fight into almost a damage rush. With 4,500 health and my flaming arrows hitting 200 each, I've only got to hit him 23 times, and with 3 magic users blasting per turn, that's 8 turns, assuming they all live. So, from here I can take 2 different approaches. I can focus more on healing, keeping my boys alive for 8 whole turns against this gangloid, or I can just give every character flaming arrows and try to damage rush him. Let's try the chimp brain strat first, as even Nanami and Victor being 20 to 30 magic points behind the hero and Khan, I should still see more or less double my damage per turn, which should drop the amount of time I gotta survive from 8 turns to like 4 or 5. I take it easy, keep the pace steady, front load with attacks on everyone but Victor, who defends. The first turn goes swimmingly, and we use the second to keep the heat on with these high magic users and heal with the mage tards. We're skirting death but staying on our feet, and the fire spam continues. He ignores his multi-target attacks for a few turns in a row, and while his single hits are rough, they're localized, far more manageable. The hardest hit was the turn after everyone had to restock, and I lost everybody but the hero and Khan. If I didn't clap him in one more turn, it was Dunskies and I'd need a new strat. I&II casts his final firewall and the beast falls. God damn. That was way too tight and I only won because of luck. Flick rushes the castle to inform us that South Window was occupied and the leader's head was found hanging from the front gate. Now we have to find a world-class strategist, as this castle, which magically became beautiful and no longer a corpse pit, is our last line of defense. There's nowhere left to run, we're making a stand. We keep pushing the story wherein we convince a guy with a stinky name to help us stop running from the bad guys. This includes fighting a man in the duel style mode, which I can't use items in, and another Langrisa-esque scuffle, which is borderline scripted. Next up, we gotta convince the leaders of other nations to help us, so we do a bunch of things, grab characters galore, including the guy and the gal from the inn. They move into our castle and open an item store, which provides access to the inventory of every item store we've accessed thus far. We're safe. At a bare minimum, I should always have access to damaging items now, which is fantastic. My party consists of the hero, 2 units with a lot of health to tank damage, luck, the character with the highest magic in the game, and amazing scaling to most elements. But then there's Zamza, who I subbed Rune out for. While Rune has higher speed and slightly higher magic, Zamza is physically beefier and has better scaling, so he'll be far more useful and deal much more damage with fire attacks, which is pretty much all I have right now anyway. So that's 5 characters accounted for, and the 6th is a doozy. I chose Tutor, one of the weakest characters in the game, because his rune is not only passive, but if I'm reading this right, it will be extremely useful for the run. And then I test the rune out and it doesn't work like I thought it would, so I kick him out of the party. The description would make me think that when a character hits critical health, they're healed automatically, which would be handy, but that's not how it works at all. If Tutor, or Tutter I guess, cues a regular attack against a foe, and before that executes, one of our party hits critical health, his attack shifts to heal the character. With items, of course. As I can't risk the attack actually executing, I can't use this rune. I hate this kid, I hope someone aborts him. I return to switch him out for literally anyone else. Fuck it, let's put Rena back in. She's cute and loose. I continue the story, it's pretty dense at this point. We chase a winged thief, watch a tweaker get lashed 100 times, and end up in the sewers. It's in this place where I find a giant rat who absolutely slaughters me without relent. I died hard. I'm not a guy who faces problems as they arise. I like to let them fester and worsen a bit before I deal with them. So let's stuff ass around for a tick with another trick, which, won't help a great deal, but it's cool to do. I just recruited Hans in Two River, who is an armorer keen to provide resources for our budding army, but what he doesn't know is that he's gonna fund the entire operation. I unequip one character's armor and go to buy expensive armor for a separate character, which I can afford, but is worth less than twice my potch value. Yeah. I select the character who didn't have their armor equipped, get to the selection where you can put it in your bag or equip it directly, and then cancel out. Now I select the naked guy and give him the armor instead. Upon equipping him, the original prompt from the first character is still there, and my money hasn't changed. When we choose to store it in our bag, we will have bought 2 pieces of armor for more than my total money, which underflows it to the maximum value. Thank you, Hans. Very cool. This is a handy glitch, as per the story, our entire fund was just stolen by the Winged Child. Money in Suikoden II pays out to an excess, likely due to the way you have to pay for each weapon upgrade individually, like 15 times per character. But as we're not doing that, the cash has been flowing. I just wanted to do this trick because I can. Showing off cool glitches adds a lot to these videos. With our newfound fortune, we head back to 2 River to grind, because I need more stats. I replace all our flaming arrows with angry blows for everybody except for Zamza. This is going to effectively double my damage, at least I think, so all we gotta do is focus on surviving. With 4 blasters and 2 tanky friends to block some hits, I'm still not feeling prepared. I'd like a little more damage. Luck comes with a scroll called Bolt of Wrath, which has 1 charge but does a whopping 600 damage. I don't want to rush to use it because I may need it in the future. What I do want to do is finally utilize the rune system, so I'll head over to the shop at 2 River and get a wizard rune. This takes half your magic defense and adds it to your magic stat. It's a pretty hefty price to pay, but for a couple points of extra damage per turn, I think the price is fair. I tried a run with the wizard rune on I&II, but we barely got him halfway, so it was time for some real strats. I have 1 charge of 2 heavier hitting spells left, so I put the wizard rune on Luck and slap those on him as well, and we end up doing 800 damage to start. With Luck's higher magic and better scaling, we're hitting 230 damage per turn, a significant upgrade from what the hero was doing. The nasty rodent keeps using melees and missing, so we're put in a fantastic position to continue. My healing starts to run dry as he continues meleeing, and just toward the end of battle, he ramps up the multi-target attacks. Things are looking grim, so in my final turn I've got everyone queued up for one last push. The hero hits 157, as does Rune, and Luck does 234. If he's within 500 damage of death and we outspeed him, we win. The casts are off, and he dies. Damn, that was like 10% planning, 90% luck, but we did it! I didn't want to use those heavy hitting scrolls, but it was unfortunately necessary. Even with them, we won by the skin of our teeth, and solely because of great luck. Pushing the story, the mayor's betrayed with false promises of a peace treaty, and we fight 2 or 3 encounters, I don't remember, but we have just enough items left over to scrape by. Like, it's not pretty, but they're generic, so we're not in too much danger. From here, it's a recruit fest. Everyone's on board, until we're told that the children have to sneak into a recently occupied city with a school to pose as students and extract an important political figure. What could possibly go wrong? Flick accompanies this time, and he has a B scaling to lightning and decent magic, but we can only take children with us otherwise. This rules out Rikimaru and Olan, who have been my defensive staples, plus Nanami forced herself into the party, and she is shit. So our remainders will be Ailey, Luck, and Wakaba, a ninja I picked up with high health, but otherwise fairly unremarkable, at least for this run. On the way, I grab 1 more wizard room and On the way, I put Ailey in the wizard room and get some extra magic. We blend in well and have our own Japanese high school experience. We max our social links, and all that really comes from this is a few fights with generic units, and I have plenty of flaming arrows to deal with them. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I head back to clean up some of the recruitments I left behind, such as a Rune girl and a farm girl. The Rune girl makes life easier, and the farm girl allows us to participate in animal husbandry. You know, in a non-sus way. Skulking around, stealing some pigs, sheep, and cows, we have access to a far bigger menu for our restaurant. Oh, by the way, we have a restaurant. Grabbing recipe 31 from the Kobold village and sugar from the trading post, we can now make sugar-cured meat. This has 6 charges, restores 450 health, and has a 60% chance of putting the character in a hyper state. Hyper increases magic damage by 1.5 times apparently, but presents a chance the spell will backfire, dealing the damage to you instead. Doing some damage tests, it only seems to increase it by 1.2 times. I test it with Luck and the hero, when Luck's damage went from 209 to 245, while the hero's went from 172 to 202. I test Luck with an Angry Blow scroll to see if the higher damage spells have a discrepancy, and it goes from 257 to 317, which is an increase of 1.2, though slightly higher. Flaming arrows go up by 1.17 times, where Angry Blow goes up by 1.23 times. The internet assured me that magic damage goes up by 1.5 times, so something is sussy here. Is Astute the same as Hyper? I've seen conflicting reports. I can't find any concrete info. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Now, we're waltzing to Matilda, a knightdom. Nanami forces her way into the party, but if you neg her 3 times, she'll be a convoy character, who is a party-present dude that doesn't participate in battle. This opens us up for 5 useful units. I take Flick, Olan, and Zamza for the front row tankers. Zamza's still got decent magic and fire affinity, and Flick has better magic and decent lightning affinity, but they're both slightly beefier than mages. Olan is a wall who will heal, and we have our hero and Luck who are the powerhouses, but we swapped Rena for Tengar, who's a girl we picked up in a unicorn forest. She has similar stats to Rena, slightly lower magic, but overall better stats and affinities, so we'll likely get more use out of her. I could still use more wizard runes for Flick and Zamza, but the time it takes to re-roll the rare finds is eating away at my soul like half a true rune, so I had to make progress anyway. I also wonder if they'd be better with their full magic defense over a couple extra points of damage, but that's a question for a future me. A question which will be answered, by the way. Heading through the forest, we grab Vicky, who can blink people 2 places, which will save on walking. Her magic stat is through the roof, but unfortunately her affinities are all E. This means she does 20% extra damage with all magic types, but there's a decent chance they'll backfire. Yeah, hard pass for now, but we head through and talk to a flat-looking goblin dude, then watch some civilians get slaughtered before his main knight runs off to see what's going on. We can follow him, or we can attempt a cheeky little side quest, so let's go do that. Take a little break from the main narrative. I'd already done most of this quest when I pushed the gate aside in the early game, so we've just got to meet 2 new friends at the mountain to save a kid who went looking for a dragon. Sounds easy enough. We push the mountain, there's not a lot here, but the mobs give decent experience yield, then we hit the boss at the top, the Harpy. It's been a long time since we fought a boss, let's see how we go. Ah, damn, she gaped me. All those intestines on the ground, they're mine. Don't touch them. The melee, it's pretty subdued, but the magic attacks just defile me, likely due to my low magic defense from those fucking wizard runes. Unfortunately, my damage output is simply not high enough to take her, and she's wholly optional, so it doesn't matter. Humphrey would be a nice wall, and you recruit him if you can beat the Harpy, but Olan's doing a fine job already, so it's a non-issue. So I guess the question of a 100% run? Not doable. But maybe it's doable, maybe I'm just shit, who knows. We continue with the story. Luca Blight eats everyone with a spectral demon wolf, and then some blokes defect and join us. We get betrayed by kobolds in a fake-out Famicom Wars battle, then we fall back and do our first real, wholly uncontextual fight. It's tough, but I win. Obviously not with items, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Then we recruit a new general and his gimped-out twink slave, and we're off to make friends in a different part of the world. Heading back to Radat, the place we just liberated from Baldo, we're shuffled down the river by a nice man and arrive in Banner Village, a small riverside village with a secret. And that secret is, there's a big caterpillar in the forest who's kicking the shit out of me. I genuinely think it's all these wizard runes letting dudes with spells trounce me, so I go back and remove every single one, as well as giving Luck the alert rune I found in a barrel, which casts Hyper on him after 4 turns in combat. Since we do so little damage, battles will always last at least 4 turns. Now, with my wizard runes gone, that's a sizable chunk of my damage gone with it, which is unfortunate, but if an enemy can move twice and cast 2 spells, that's a party wipe. I head back and I clap the caterpillar, but not before accidentally attacking with the hero and having to reset, because that is not on. The actual fight goes well, despite the fact that I'm dealing noticeably less damage. I've got plenty of attack items and enough healing to skirt by. That added magic defense is doing wonders, though the caterpillar mostly uses a physical attack which hits a single column and doesn't do much damage. He only has 1 attack per turn, so I might have been a bit hasty removing the wizard runes, but it's probably for the best anyway. Returning to a familiar place, we successfully get help from a foreign army and are tasked with picking between 2 women. One is experienced, accomplished, could borderline solo a theoretical final boss, but the other is fresh, supple, and we're not hag maxes, so we go for the be-egged one. Ha, sorry babe, you should have thought about that before you aged. Checking the item store, I find that this place sells firewall scrolls, which we're familiar with. They're the ones that deal 150 damage to an enemy row, but they only have 1 charge. Angry Blow is still the better tech to take down bosses. With 1 charge, half my turns will be casting, and the other half will be pilfering through my sack for another cast, whereas 2 charges I only have to scrounge around every 3 turns. I don't know, they may be useful, we'll see. I'm just happy there's a new attack. We recruit a couple nobodies, then head on to the Ninja Village. Selecting the young ninja gave us early access to this place, and with it, 2 more ninja friends. All 3 of these ninjas have some powerful scrolls equipped to them, so we strip them bareback at HQ. I read that wrong. One is Dancing Flames, which does 300 damage to all enemies. It's like flaming arrows, but 5 times as powerful. The next is the Shredding, which is a wind tech that does 450 damage to all enemies. Very nice. And the final is that 600 damage 1-target lightning attack, the one I want, the one I covet. I must have it. Either way, I'm glad we picked the ninja, as we're set up for a much better time with whomsoever is the next boss. Oh my fucking god, it's Luca Blight. After a brief field skirmish wherein I one-shot the tyrant with Jean's lightning spell, we have 3 parties queued to engage him in standard combat. This is great for me, as I get to use 18 characters instead of 6. There was zero prep for this fight, so I got destroyed as Luca has good resistances to magic, a huge health pool, and hits like a demon given flesh. I didn't equip characters with items or armor, nor were they leveled to rise to the occasion. I just wanted to see how I'd fare as I was. My first team dealt a decent amount of damage. Spells barely hit him for 100, but if you throw enough of those, it adds up quickly. In this run, I barely cracked off 500 damage from both of my starting parties, as the second formation had nobody with items. I tried to let a firewall loose with Vicky, but it backfired and torched my own guys instead. Yeah, thanks Vicky. The core team dealt most of the damage, but Lorelei dropped quickly and Tengar wasn't far behind. Despite that, once Luck's hyper mode activated 4 turns in, I started throwing those strong ninja spells at him. The shreddening and the lightning one added up to over 1,000 damage. We ended up having dealt 2,700, which is a great effort considering how little I prepared. I'd say 5,000 is free, and the deciding factor is going to be whether I can bridge that last 1,500. I'll be able to level them a bit and slap some stronger spells on to get a few more points of damage. I'm thinking all 3 item slots on every character will have a firewall, which will be 450 base damage per character. If we survive for 3 turns, I'm estimating around 1,000 damage due to our low magic and his high resistances. I'll do the same on the second team and pray we can pass 2,000 damage, then we've only got a beast of a man with 4,500 health to drill down with the main party. I'll need to sub Flick out for someone, and probably Zamza too, as Flick leads the first division and Zamza has no physical defense. He's pathetic. Luca fells him in a single hit. I get everyone to the high 30s, gear them up and prepare the firewalls for a good old-fashioned damage rush. Some lucky fellas get their own wizard rune. It was a hell of a coordinated effort, probably the most I've put into anything on this channel. And it failed. Here's why. I subbed out healing for a raw damage rush and got pretty unlucky in the first 2 fights. Stupid me put too many magic users in Flick's party, so I've got a mage on the front lines against Luca Blight, and Luck, my main damage dealer, died almost immediately in the 3rd fight, so none of the big hits connected. I'll give it a reroll and see if we can't get a bit luckier. I will say I did hit 5,000 damage as my last guy fell, so my prediction was correct. The Demon Man accompanies guards in his first 2 encounters, but they're irrelevant. They can hurt, but most of my guys dodge their melee attacks. They also line up next to your boys, so the firewalls kill them really fast. Luca is obviously the issue, despite only having 2 attacks. The first is a 3-hit combo, which does okay damage, but nothing to be too concerned about. I got tough boys up front, except for Flick's unit, so this attack is a non-issue. It's his second move, which shits in my britches. Blight has a fire slash technique, which either hits the front row or a column, so your mages are not safe. He casts his own flaming arrow, based, and absorbs it into his sword, meaning this attack is a magic one. It still hits like a truck, particularly on the mages who have halved magic defense from the wizard runes. So how do we slow him down? Well, the fire sealing rune completely negates fire damage, and would be amazing on a guy like Luck, who is responsible for most of the damage, but guess who sold it very early in the game? This guy. Barring that, I replace everybody's one accessory with a fire emblem, which supposedly decreases fire damage, and then I remove the wizard runes from my core party and give them to the damage bombers. With a cyclone rune on Luck, giving him a 15% chance to dodge enemy spells, I remove his wizard rune and sprinkle some wind runes and stuff around other members for a smaller but equally helpful 5% chance to dodge. I got 2 magic stones, 2 defense stones, and a magic defense stone items which permanently increase your stats by 1 to 3. If you use these, then game over and soft restart, your characters keep their stat increases and you get the items back. I gave Luck a couple points of defense and my hero a bit more magic. We're talking single digits, but I don't know, I felt greasy, like if I kept going, I would not have earned my victory. So let's cut it off before it becomes a problem and have another attempt. Round 3, I switch Nina from Flick's party and give him someone bulkier for the front line. I specifically moved Nina as she'll defend Flick, and I don't want that, so I've swapped her for Anita. The first wave is up, 1,400 damage, very nice. Victor's party didn't do as well, we barely cleared another 1,000. Through some miracle, I start racking up damage and barely taking any. I think the fire emblems and the lack of wizard runes are keeping me alive long enough to lay on some serious heat. Passing the 5,000 barrier, we've beaten our personal best, and things go wrong. Luck casts a firewall, and it backfires. It hits my entire party for 100 or so damage each. From here, we run out of healing, characters start dropping like flies, and Luck backfires 2 more spells, and that's all she wrote. My final damage tally was 5,900. We were 600 from victory, which would have been easily cleared if Victor's unit performed better, and if Luck could fucking aim. I think my setup now is more than enough. We just need a stronger Victor fight and a bit more luck. Next attempt, my Flick fight goes a little worse, but my Victor fight goes significantly better to compensate, and we just cleared 2500. Best case scenario, I think we're looking at around 3000 damage for these first two stages, so 2500 is solid. That run would go on to fail miserably, but 2 runs later, we finally cracked it. That's right, baby, we beat Luca Blight with items. The Flick unit, they did okay. The Victors put us around 2500, again by using more defending with the front line and a bit more blasting from the rear. The final stage of this fight just went so unexpectedly well, I could have kept going for a few more turns. Only one backfire, all my strongest spells hit on a hyper luck, the healing was great, when characters were low I would defend and I'd be fine. The fire resistance, mwah, primo. He did a lot more single target attacks and always targeted favourably to me. It went about as well as it could have. Zamza even made it to the second last round, which is insane, and he still had the wizard rune on. Also, Olan is a tank. My god, that woman can take a beating. Absolute wife material. I ready my guys for the final push. I don't remember what's beyond here, so I heal them with the last of my healing and load them up with the last of my remaining firewall scrolls. And I'm glad I did, as, you know, there are a few fights on the way. 2 fights of 2 rows of soldiers are quickly taken out by 1 firewall each, and then we're up. Luca starts his villain speech, and after his unit being rooted, catching 2 volleys of arrows and a direct assault from 18 of my strongest ground units, who were backed by a fortress of fire, this dude still has enough energy to stand up and fight the protagonist one-on-one. Damn! He does only take a couple hits, we've just got to read his mind accurately, so I'll use a wild attack and... Oh my god, are you fucking kidding? Okay, so we're back. We best this clown who dies monologuing as all good villains do. Rest in power, queen! He's actually genuinely dead too. An ancient god doesn't possess his body, he doesn't get a second form, like he's cooked, and now we're gonna eat him. If I didn't pick that ninja, this run would have been over. She's lucky she's cute, or rather I'm lucky she's cute. The next parts of the story are Joey becoming king, then offering a peace treaty. Finally, we can stop the struggle now that the real tyrant's dead, but wait, it was a trap and he still wants to kill us for some reason? Flick and Victor save us once more using a mute child as bait, then we hear word of zombies in a new region, so guess where we're going? A good guess, how'd you know? Before I leave, I gear everybody up. Unfortunately, Nanami and Victor are with us for this run, so it's gonna get difficult and boring. I might have to cut Olan just to slap another magic user in the party, but I don't want to. Anyway, while I'm stocking up on sugary beef, I fuse a tomato soup with some soy sauce, and you may call me a monster, and I'll take it. But let me cook. That is a lightning blast, an explosion of taste, an abomination so morbid that Zeus himself is mad, and attacks my foes. It seems to be just an angry blow scroll, doing the same animation, the same damage, and having the same number of charges, which sucks because I got really excited thinking I could use it. Anyway, let's go slay some zombies. We run through and get funneled to Crom Village, where there is nothing, except for an item, which changes the entire game. If we head to the trading post, we can buy a red pepper, and returning to the kitchen in Castle Feeder, we can create a fried fishball and a red pepper combo, which effectively makes a firewall, but with 2 charges instead of 1. Now, not only is this amazing, but it's also entirely useless, as we picked up recipe 26 back in Highway Village, and this allows us to create teriyaki, and merge it with a red pepper to create a barbecue bomb. What's a barbecue bomb, you might ask? Well, look for yourself. Ouch! It mimics a dancing flame spell, which is the next tier up from Firewall, hitting everybody for 300, so we're sitting pretty right now. Heading back, we arrive at Tinto to find an oddly out-of-place gal named Raww. She's looking for our Rune girl, so we send her back to the castle, and now this is where I think the game will get incredibly easy, as she opens a scroll shop which fashions crystals into attack items. Where was all this shit pre-Luca? Anyway, she can convert the fire, water, earth, wind, and heart crystals. Each one produces 3 scrolls for the first 3 tiers of spell. A familiar example is the fire crystal, which will generate 2 flaming arrows with 6 charges each, 1 firewall with 4 charges, and 1 dancing flames with 2 charges, which is way more than buying them from the store. There are upgraded forms of these runes which yield even better results, though are significantly harder to get and often only appear once or twice in the entire game. I'm more than happy with what we've got now, as we can buy these low-level runes for scrap from the rune store. I can now get a Bolt of Wrath scroll which does 600 damage and has 2 charges for the low price of 6,000 potch, and I've still got like 500,000 from the glitch we did years ago. If you break down a water crystal, you're given 2 charges of a scroll that heals the entire party for 300. Like, we've already beaten the game, boys. Let's make some progress. Anyway, we push back to Tinto, talk to Eyebrows, and Necklord arrives. Then we prepare for a necky battle. During the night, Nanami proposes we run away, so we do it, and then we live in the cabin in the woods while everyone else gets slaughtered by zombies, and that's Suikoden II with items only. Can it be done? Yeah, surprisingly. I'll see you next time. Nah, I'm just fucking with ya. You see the duration. Let's go back and do it properly. What a shit ending. We grab our old buddy Khan, find a QT vampire girl who tests our might, and she's decently powerful, but with enough fire, anything will burn. Even a really pale vampire with hair and clothes, the toughest material of all. She joins our party and vows to help destroy Necklord, so I bench Nanami. She's got an A affinity for lightning, a huge magic stat, a bad attitude, and I love her. Following this, a little zombie scuffle breaks out, then we're tasked with penetrating Tinto from below, rising up through the underground. It's a pretty straightforward shot to the boss, who is a giant rock guy. He hits hard, really hard. If we hadn't upgraded our damage, this would probably be impossible. There is no way in hell that I would beat this guy doing 100 damage per attack, but 2000 with Sierra clears him easily. We push to the surface, and in a church with some underage girls is of course our resident Minecraft YouTuber, Necklord. He taunts us, says that we'll never defeat him, then Victor returns the favor by threatening to piss on him. Telling you, he's the best character. Khan drops a seal to prevent the ghoul's predictable escape, and Sierra demands he gives the rune back, the source of his immortality. This is another fight where he's kinda strong, but the sheer amount of numbers I'm throwing at him is enough to drop any boss with ease. I'm shredding this dude, I'm electrocuting him, I'm barbecue bombing this diddler back into the ground where he belongs. We take a bit of damage, but between Victor casting Canopy Defense, the level 3 Earth Scroll, which blocks enemy magic for 1 turn, and Necklord having a weird melee obsession with Sierra, we walk away victorious. He also drops a 4-charge shredding. Thanks, dude. Now, in thematic fashion, we just saved some children and are gonna do it again, but not before a cheeky assassination attempt. This oddly familiar looking woman rushes the hero and we take her out with a few items. She does do a bit of damage as we've still got the wizard rune on, but we're good and she dies quickly. It's time to retake Green Hill, the school town. You can choose 3 ways of approaching this soul nomad fight. You can either head with Victor, Kiba, or command from afar, but Kiba's my homie and, we've had enough of Victor for 1 playthrough. It turns out this is the most involved, where you've got to actually use your units to win. I know, it's crazy. I have a few ranged dudes, so it takes a few turns of stalling for good damage rolls as foes can't seem to give chase, and then we win. There were a few close calls when Yuba actually started to push, but we made it out unscathed. Rushing through the forests of Green Hill Zone, we find Shadow the Hedgehog with a band of fellas, and the fight is over so fast you wouldn't believe it. I didn't even pay attention, that's how fast and unthreatening it was, but imagine that I did and it was riveting. There's a few generic soldiers, but I can one-shot them, so we move through the town where Yuba decides to get even edgier and summon a zombie dragon. I quickly discover that this guy hits about as hard as a dragon should, but only moves once per turn, so we're good. He's also immune to lightning, which I find out by wasting a bolt of wrath and quickly pivot to other elements. Wind seemed to hit him the hardest, with fire barely doing anything. Luckily, we've got a lot of wind, so we spam it for a fairly easy win. He almost one-shots dudes with melee attacks, but at 1 attack per turn, it's not really a concern. We flip and dip, some shenanigans happen, then we liberate Muse, but oh no, it was actually a trap, and the city's full of gold wolves. We fight one, and he's decently difficult, but again, that rapid-fire spam of high damage spells just cranks straight through him, even with his magic resistance. Breaking to the north, we make it back to the castle. Somehow, as it's to the south and over a river. I don't know how they pulled that off, but good job. Pushing ever forward, we sneak into Matilda to set a flag on fire and have to fight a few night brigades on the way. They fall to a single shredded wind or whatever it's called, then we find Joey. He says his usual spiel and Nanami tries to deflect arrows with her bendy staff. Yeah, it's not the smartest idea. Joey and I&II fly into a rage and kill this fat old dude who is only 37. Joey comes with some kind of rain, I don't remember what kind of rain, but it fully heals both our boys, and then we just have to deal 4,500 to kill him. Luckily, we've got extremely overpowered items, but Joey keeps countering and does a decent amount of damage, about 200, and actually is responsible for killing the guy, which I don't like, so I'm gonna keep going until I get it. Using the defend command increases the counter rate, just like in the duel fights, and it's crazy that it hasn't been an issue until right now. With the hero's level 1 weapon and the fact that I never upgraded anybody, even if they did counter, it would do no damage. A quick do-over and we don't use the defend command. Joey helps us blast him and that's that. The flag is burnt, Highland retreats and Nanami's breathing and carted back to the castle. Unfortunately, she's not breathing for long and dies, but I'm just glad I don't have to take her in the party anymore, am I right? Oh, too soon? Before we head on to finish the game, we head back to Rakute Mountain, and wouldn't you know it, Futch and Humphrey are both waiting for us to kill that harpy. With the raw damage of our newly acquired Bolt of Wraths, the harpy drops very quickly and barely does any damage as we armed Humphrey with canopy defense, and Futch with those kindness drops healing the whole party and preventing one magic spell per turn. She did get one wind attack in, hitting everyone for around 200. She is legitimately stronger than Luca Blight and Necklord, like goddamn. How are you supposed to beat her so early? I guess you're not restricted to items and are far more versatile, but still. Now I've got everyone, 108 stars, minus Nanami and Kiba. I think we're too late to get the ultimate reward. Not that it really matters much, but we nearly did it, gamers, we were so close. We can get a minor reward from a guardian deity though, in the Dragon Incense. It's an item which restores 50 HP to every party member. I don't know how useful this will be, but I got the parts for it, and we make a half dragon, half rabbit hybrid monster who gives it to me, as well as the Fortune Rune, which doubles experience gain. Seems kinda pointless, but I'll give it to I&II anyway. The incense, not the rune. Also, for some reason I didn't mention that it's reusable, like it's non-expendable, which is kinda cool. The final siege is upon us, and it's easy. Yuba runs away and we slowly clean everyone up. Entering the castle, we assemble our final party. Flick and Sierra for their strong magics and lightning scaling, Luck because he's the GOAT, Tengar because I like her, and Olan because she takes literally no damage from anything. I also put a group heal on the protagonist, which I'll need for the first boss of this dungeon, Lucia. Lucia? She's actually pretty hard this time around and nearly wipes Flick twice. Luckily, we had the foreskin to put those heals on the hero. 2 rounds of thunder spam and she falls, like most bosses. We blow through a few more generics, Flick gains some much needed levels, and we come to a duel fight. This guy was your grandpa's mate or something, but he absolutely smokes me, like I can't damage him at all. I thought it was a contextual fight until I lost it 3 times in a row, even after doing pretty well. And then I realized, the reason I can't hurt him is because I never upgraded the hero's weapon. It's still level 1. I guess we'll go back to the castle and correct that. We returned with a level 15 weapon and smoke this dude. I didn't realize how much stats affected these battles. Honestly, might have made the Luca Blight fight easier, but there you go. We rush through a labyrinthian castle and face Sneed and Cullen, who use fire and lightning. Despite this, we mostly shredded them to death. There were a few close calls with Flick dodging a near fatal blow, but our arsenal of bolts and wind is more than enough to take him out with ease. And if you've beaten Suikoden II before, you'll know that next up is the final battle. Against my better judgment, I'm not going to restock, I'll just get a feel for what I'm up against. Once I lose, I'll restock and cope and we'll go from there. Leon Silverberg wants to summon the demon who stole so many lives, and there's an obvious joke here, but I want to stay on YouTube. But now you're thinking it, so you're the asshole. Outpours a physical manifestation of the Beast Rune, one of the true runes. That means it's strong. We head into battle against a twin-headed demon dog with a floating rune and 2 seals on its legs, 5 enemies in total with varying abilities, attacks, healths, and resistances. This is gonna be a nightmare. We start by throwing everything at him, and all we're given is some pissy damage. I'm talking early 200s on most everyone. I've determined that the right head, rune, and right leg are all weak to thunder, so they'll be our primary targets. The sooner I can wipe 1 or 2 guys, the easier the fight will be, and the right leg healed the head and rune after I killed him, so he's gotta go, fast. Luck dies right away. I guess you could say we're out of luck. Oh, you don't have to clap for that. Flick isn't too far behind, and we coast for a while, with the hero healing and Olan using canopy defense, which blocks the odd spell. Everyone else is just trying to dish as much as they can, and eventually they get ailed and we fall. I was also running pretty low on damaging items, so primarily I want about half an inventory for a thunder damage rush, a couple healing scrolls, Olan with a canopy defense to block spells, and the rest can be whatever they want, I don't care. Maybe multi-target attacks? I get everybody stocked up, sub out Tengar for Mazes as he has significantly better scaling, and I'm going to bring a few extra buffs this time. There's a scroll called Clay Guardian which seems to increase defense by 1.5 for the entirety of the battle. And we can drop a Protect Mist for a 20% chance to block all magic damage for 3 turns. The canopy defense is a 100% chance, but it only seems to activate for specific spells. Like, I don't know how any of this works, But that's the plan. The Clay Guardians I buy from the store, as they only have 2 charges, and honestly 2 is all I need. If I use the scrolls gained from breaking down a crystal, I'd have to commit to 8 charges, but the idea is to use 2 and then have a blank inventory slot to fill with attack items in the next turn. That's right, I have given this the tiniest bit of thought, but I still feel vastly underprepared. Oh well, let's give it a try anyway. I have a second try, and it's going really well. We heal, we get our buffs off, and for some reason, if the 2 heads team up for a unite attack with the Rune, that's all they do in the entire turn, so we're safe. Unfortunately, luck hits hyper mode, and it backfired 2 shreddenings immediately, which was a party wipe. Honestly, I think the buffs were useless. The damage between buffed and unbuffed isn't worth 2 turns, like that's enough to drop the Rune, which would be a much larger move. The new strat is to replace them with more damage and spread the healing across all characters so they're not wholly reliant on one guy. We're going to drop the Rune, drop the right leg so it doesn't revive, take the right head, and then slowly whittle down the other 2 who have higher defenses to lightning. A few more failed attempts and I realised that my damage output is comparatively pathetic. Where my first attempt was easily dishing out 700 per turn, I'm now relegated to 200. I do some tests to figure out what's going on, and his defenses lower significantly when he uses the twin head Rune Unite attack. Effectively, I'm going to need to re-roll this fight until he opens with that attack, or I can't win. I'm also kinda reconsidering the buffs, even if only on the physically weak, as I went into one round and half my dudes died in the first turn. We line up all 5 of our deadliest foes before us. Left head, right head, Rune sandwiched between them, right leg, and who could forget the most deadly of all? Left leg. He opens with a big moon attack, dropping his defenses. The Rune falls in the second turn, and then it's a hard focus on his leg, a race against time itself, all the while we're healing and squealing and preventing magic damage. It's an epic affair. A few turns later and the leg buckles. We're halfway there, bros. I use the shreddening, which hits the remaining foes for 500 each, except for the left head, who takes a whopping 1,000. That's a little under a quarter of his maximum health. A few more turns and the right head drops. At this point, the left leg starts going crazy, attempting to ail us as best he can, while the left head is just popping off. Our canopies and healing rain are keeping us alive, though barely. We run out of items and restock. The ailments are bouncing off us like hot dog piss on a frosty winter's morn. Only a handful of ailments ever stuck, and outside of a cheeky sleep, they were never detrimental. Luck and I&II drop 1 more shreddening each and the left head falls. With no need to destroy the final leg, the game is won, with items only. I forgot how good this game is. Like, sure, it's got issues, but they're easily overlooked. I've always heralded Suikoden II as one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, but now I believe it even more. You know, that it let me win with items. I'll see you next time for more item